Hi, good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee and Chat with Hallee Bridgeman. I'm so happy you could join me. I am coming to you from a hotel room in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Um, this is our last extended trip for the summer. We have been home maybe 10 total days since school got out. The end of May, the 31st of May. School goes back August the 8th. We will be home, I think, July 28th. It's been a crazy summer. So last week, my boys were in space camp in Huntsville, Alabama at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. They started space camp in 1982, and in that time, about 800,000 kids have gone through and graduated from space camp. So my two boys are now alumni of this amazing organization, and we know that they'll go back next year. It was an incredible experience for both of them. We were really worried about Scott because, for those of you who don't know, Scott is my son with autism, and he had never, other than at a friend's house or my mother's house, like one single friend of mine, Scott's never not been with us at night before. And we were completely prepared to pull him out every evening and take him back every morning. And so, we had a hotel in Huntsville, and we were ready to not have him be there at night in case there was an issue. And he was fine. He was sick one day, and they didn't even call us to tell us he was sick. And so, there's this part of me that's so thankful that they had such a great staff. And I was part of a parents group on Facebook, like Parents of Space Camp or whatever. And there was all of this angst and anger about the chaos of the signing them in. And it was really that way. And I was like, oh, they're just being parents and it's not going to be that bad. It was pretty bad. But once the kids were on the other side, we knew completely that it was fine. It was just a matter of getting them from where the parents were dropping all the kids off to the other side. And once we did that, they were fine. So we'll send them back next year, which is really cool because there's so many things that they offer. They offer like space camp, robotics camp. So Jeb did space, Scott did robotics. They offer an aviation challenge, cybersecurity, which is what Greg does for a living. So that's kind of cool. And like advanced camps as you get older. And so we now are not going to, there's going to be chaos in the beginning. We get that. There'll be chaos collecting them and taking them out of there. We get that. But the rest of the time was completely wonderful. And the kids had an amazing time. And even Scott. So Scott said, he turned 13 during camp. And he said, it was wonderful. And Greg said, was it amazing? And Scott said, no, this side of amazing on wonderful. And so by the time he got to my mom's house the next day, Mom said, how was camp? And he said, fine. So what he doesn't want us to talk about next year, like he was gone for a week, away from us for a week. He came back to us for a week and or came back to us for a night or two, and then we dropped him off at my parents. And he's like, I'm not going to talk about next year. I'm refusing to discuss it with you. So good morning, Kelly. I'm so happy you caught me live. It's summertime. You get to do things like that. So sorry, this chair is very rocky, and I find myself rocking, and I'm sorry. That's probably really annoying on the camera. So that was last week, and this week is the Romance Writers of America convention, which I had already planned on going to. It's in New York City this year. And my parents' house is like the halfway point to New York City from my house. And so I had already planned on dropping the boys off at my mom's and then going to RWA convention. But then earlier, a couple months ago, I pulled out of RWA. I did not renew my membership. And so I didn't go to the convention, but I had already asked my mom to watch the boys, and you just kind of don't take her grandkids away from her. So Greg is working in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania this week. And so he's like, come hang out with me. And I said, oh, that'll be fun. So I'm working while he's working, and we're enjoying a week here. And then on Friday, we're meeting my dad and the boys in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is really cool because Gettysburg is like my dad's favorite place on earth. You know, some people say that Walt Disney World is the most wonderful place on earth. To my dad, it's Gettysburg. And so he gets to show off his favorite spot to two of his grandsons, and that's really amazing. So that's this week. And then we'll have like 10 days before school starts when we get home. And I'll have 2 boys in middle school, which is kind of scary and exciting at the same time. So I hope y'all are having a good week. Last night was a crazy storm, like thunder, lightning. We're on the top floor of the hotel, so we could hear the rain falling, which was an unusual experience in a hotel, and just crazy. So, all right, so this morning I'm answering the question. I don't remember what question I said I would. Oh, do you read reviews, and what do you do about negative reviews? And so that's a very interesting question. I read my reviews when I see them. And so, you know, there's bloggers who blog and review, and there's, and they'll almost always will tag me, and you're like somehow on social media or email me or whatever and say I left a review. And there's Amazon reviews and Goodreads reviews, and those are the ones I look at. So if I find myself on another site like Barnes & Noble or iBooks, I'll see the reviews, but there's less of them. And it's just, I just don't go seeking them. But the Amazon, I have a way to like pull up a specific site, and it will list all of the reviews for all my books in one place. And that's how I'm able to kind of keep up with my reviews there. So yes, I read them. I read them almost compulsively during release week, because what I'm looking for is something I might have done wrong in a book that maybe my beta readers and street team didn't catch or tell me, or if there's like a consistent complaint about something specific, I want to know about that. And that's never happened, but that's what I'm looking for when I read reviews on release week. But other than that, it's just like a way to kind of see what people are saying. And the reason why is because 95% of the time they're really positive. And the thing is that I'm like super insecure and really introverted. And so like, I don't ask, I just wait for people to say. And every time I get a positive anything at all, it encourages me. It encourages me to keep writing. And so what I get is like emails from people, and I talk about this in my newsletter onboarding series. Like if you've ever signed up for my newsletter and got the series of 6 emails, this will sound familiar to you, but it's often I get inside my own head, or the enemy gets inside my head and starts beating me up about untalented, or, you know, dried up, or not able to write anymore, or not relevant anymore, or whatever it is. However, whatever will work inside me that will make me feel really, really discouraged and not wanting to do this anymore. Like immediately I will get an email from someone who talks about how something in my book changed their relationship with their husband or their relationship with God. It either, you know, will have brought them to God or brought them back to God, or answered specific questions or strengthened something somewhere. And this is like every time. It doesn't ever not happen. And so I know that that's just God encouraging me through readers, but reviews do the same thing for me. Good morning, Gail. So when I open up my reviews and I see like 6 5-star reviews and all of these positive things that are said, it seriously makes me feel like, okay, I can keep doing this. Honestly, I can. And it's silly to be that tied into that. And there's authors who will say never read reviews because the negative ones will bring you down. And it's just, what the negative ones do is kind of irritate me. Like there was one this week on Sapphire Ice. It was a 1-star. The person admitted that they didn't finish reading it, and they didn't like specific things in the book. But like here I am, I'm answering a review. Greg will make fun of me when he sees this video. They didn't finish the book, and so they didn't see these things that were bothering them throughout the book resolved in the process of the book. And they called it prosperity Christianity, which is basically the idea that if you follow God and love God, then God will make you financially wealthy. That's not, Sapphire Ice and the Jewel series are not prosperity religion books. They very clearly address that. And I'm sorry that the reader didn't finish it to get to the point where that was talked about. So, but it would take like tons of negative reviews at one time to like truly bring me to a point where I would feel like I couldn't keep writing or that there was something wrong. And, one of the ways that I counter that is with like my street team. When they choose to read a book, I'll ask them to answer questions like, what's your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? What is your favorite part about this character? That kind of thing. Or if there was something specific I was worried about in a book, if it wouldn't fly with my audience, my street team is a good litmus test of my entire audience. And so the way to make sure that everything is solid is to have them read first and then come back to me with answers to my questions. Like, for instance, with An Aria for Nick, which was published 2013 or 2014, there was the ending of the book. Greg said, I don't like the ending, you need to change it. And I said, you're not my audience. Sent it to my street team, and the majority of the street team came back and said, I don't like the ending. And so I changed it. And then after that, I listened to Greg. But that's just, so what that would have kept would be, dozens of reviews coming saying the ending didn't work for this book for me, because my market research group of my readers, my reader base, these 20 to 50 some odd, however many get the book at a time, have already given me that input. And so, and I know that my books are solid, and I know that my stories are solid, and I know that the Holy Spirit is like poured into them. And so I know once release week is done and I'm watching those reviews and I'm getting the feedback from my street team, I know that most of the reviews will probably be positive. And so the intention of me reading them is to be uplifted and like kind of set for my day, to get going with my day. So that was like a really well-timed. And what's funny is Jeb came back from space camp, and there'd been a kid that had been, they didn't get along, and they were in the same room together, and it was a stressor for Jeb, because Jeb's the kind of kid that wants everyone to like him all the time. And when someone doesn't like him, he kind of fixates on them and tries to fix it, even though that probably makes everything worse. And so Greg used that review, like, your mom read this review today, and all day long she's been wanting to write an article, a blog post about all these points in this review that were wrong as they pertain to the book. So we understand why you would want someone to like you, even if they don't, but understand not everyone is going to like you. And I think I probably needed to hear that as much as Jeb did. So anyway, so that was a great question. Thank you to whomever sent me that question. Next week, I will be back home. I have one more trip to make, but it will be a day trip. And it's Jeb is really into ventriloquism right now. And there's a ventriloquist museum up in Cincinnati. And there's a really neat aquarium on the Kentucky side. So Cincinnati is just right over the Kentucky border into Ohio, obviously. And anyway, in the Kentucky side, there's a really cool aquarium. And so I'm going to take Jeb to the ventriloquist museum and then take the boys to an aquarium. But that'll be like just a day. Like, we're leaving early in the morning, coming home late at night. I'm done with not being home after this week. So, and I'll be coming to you from my office in Fort Knox. But you guys have a great week. I'm finishing the edits on Valerie's Verdict this week while I'm alone in a hotel room, which means that I'm hoping that it publishes by late September, depending on my editors and their timetables. So start looking for that because I'm getting really excited. I, of course, always worry, but I started this book. I finished the first draft of it, the first true draft of it, and then had to stop it and write white dress, black belt, white dress for the box set, the Crossroads collection that's in. And so I didn't go back to Valerie's Verdict until this week. And so it's been since the end of March since I've looked at it. And I usually like finish a book and then the next week start editing it. And so there's usually not this long break between writing it and reading it. And so it's like I have this disconnect. And so I'm looking at it as if it's new. And so I'm getting like, it's probably a better editing job than I would have done if I had just started editing it, the first week of April. And so as I've done the first 5 chapters, and I told Greg on the drive to Pennsylvania this weekend that I am so excited because this book is so much better than I thought it was when I finished it in March. So I can't wait for y'all to read it. And I will see you next week. Y'all have a great week. God bless you.